We have a fire on Deck 12. The alarm shrieked before the words registered. Seconds later, the command center on the virulent Starliner dissolved into chaos. Klaxons wailed through sterile corridors. Panels flashed urgent glyphs in half a dozen languages. Technicians scrambled over each other, snatching at controls with trembling digits and chattering mandibles. Captain Threx's secondary eyelids snapped shut in stress. "Confirmed thermal spike?" she barked. "Confirmed," replied an engineer, voice cracking. "Radiant energy levels breached tolerance threshold. Multiple hotspots, rapid expansion. This is an active ignition event. Ventilation lockdown engaged. Emergency droids en route. Deck evacuated. No response from the flame suppressants." Another voice. "Something's interfering with our suppressant dispersal. It's like the fire's adapting, feeding." Captain Threx clenched a claw around the comms relay. "Initiate red priority response. Bring in the humans." There was a pause. "You want them?" Threx's voice came low and cold. "If fire walks among us, we bring the fireproof." 2 hours later, the atmosphere aboard the Virulent had shifted from panic to uneasy anticipation. The fire hadn't spread, but it hadn't diminished. Systems reported high heat, localized to Deck 12. Energy sensors showed pulsing anomalies. The firefighting bots had returned, melted. Then came the transmission. A shuttle, unmarked matte black, requesting emergency docking clearance. The human team had arrived. The bay doors parted with a seismic groan. Artificial gravity shifted subtly as magnetic clamps seized hold. No fanfare. No signal flares. Just a hiss as the ramp extended, and boots, thick, reinforced, hit the deck. 3 figures. Threx had never seen one up close. She expected them to be larger, wilder. Instead, they walked with terrifying calm, as though they belonged anywhere, everywhere. The lead human was wrapped in heat-resistant plating that looked worn, patched, practical. A strange box slung over one shoulder, humming faintly. The face behind the mask was unreadable, hidden behind reflective visors. An insignia glowed faintly at the collar. Earth insignia, yes, but scrawled below in human script. "If we're late, it's already dead." No greetings. No questions. The human leader tapped their wrist, then spoke into their mask. "Deck 12. Their voice didn't rise. It didn't command. It simply was an unshakable certainty. Threx stepped forward. "We've isolated the deck. No organic personnel remaining. Fire is adapting to our countermeasures. We've never seen anything like it." The human turned to her, visor reflecting Threx's twitching mandibles. "It's not fire." "What?" "Not combustion. Not chemical. Heat signature suggests radiated bleed from high-energy interaction. If it were a fire, your bots wouldn't melt. They'd char. What you got is something else." He paused. "You have a human?" The room fell into stunned silence. "Explain," Threx said, voice cracking. "We were tracking a missing engineer. Specialistly ran Voss. Ship registry suggests he transferred here 2 cycles ago. He's Class V certified for high-temp propulsion systems. He was last logged working on a shield containment anomaly." Another tech stammered from across the room. "We shut that system down." That's when the spike began. The human nodded. "There you go." But why would a human generate that much heat? A second human finally spoke, voice light and oddly amused. "Because when we burn out, we do it from the inside. Adrenaline. Focus. Metabolic ignition. Some of us are wired too tight. Voss might have slipped into overdrive, trying to stabilize something. You don't understand." The leader cut in. "He is the fire. If he's alive, he's bleeding energy like a sun flare. If he's dead, you'd have a melted crater. Either way, we go in." "You're telling me one human did all this?" "Not just any human. A determined one." Threx gestured weakly to the live readouts. "You'll find what? A body? A reactor implosion." The visor dipped slightly, then stilled. "We'll find one of our own." They turned, and without fanfare, moved toward the corridor leading to Deck 12. The ship creaked ominously, as if sensing what was to come. Threx watched them go, trying to process the contradiction. Their presence didn't match the panic in the logs. They weren't reacting. They were arriving, as if everything until now had simply waited for them. "Captain," murmured her adjutant, "that energy profile is climbing again. The temperature is nearing fusion thresholds." She stared at the monitor. "You're saying this human is combusting?" "No," came reply. "He's stabilizing." On screen, the pulse normalized by a fraction, and with it, the humans disappeared around the bend. The corridor to Deck 12 warped under the stress of ambient heat. Structural integrity monitors flared warnings, each one blinking red in defiance. The walls sweated condensation, then hissed as droplets hit blistering surfaces. The human team didn't pause. Internal sensors pinged their approach. 3 dense heat signatures, reading as unnatural. Alien officers watching the feed flinched. To the ship, it looked like 3 miniature infernos were advancing toward the blaze. Inside Deck 12, the heat was punishing, not in waves, but as a presence, a living weight. The human leader tapped their wrist unit. Environmentals, breached. Air density low. Radiation measurable. Pressure variance, a soft exhale. He's alive. The second human adjusted the emitter on his shoulder, twisting a dial. A low hum pulsed outward. "I'm getting harmonics. Biological. Not consistent with spontaneous fusion. He's modulating." "Then he's fighting it," said the leader. "Let's move." Behind them, emergency protocols failed to update. The alien systems, built on logic and linear progressions, couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. An alien observer muttered, "They're walking into hotspot." One of the deck engineers chimed in nervously, "We should stop them. They're entering the epicenter." The captain shook her head. "They are the solution." Inside the containment hallway, the humans reached the inner bulkhead. The heat sensors registered another spike, lethal to most species. Still, the team remained unfazed. The third human reached into a pouch and withdrew a small cube. With a flick, it unfolded into a prism-like device and began pulsing in time with the energy fluctuations. Still centered, 60 meters ahead. Irregular pulses, no decay curve. Still modulating. "Still fighting," the leader confirmed. At that moment, a soft sound filtered through the hull. Not a scream, not machinery. A slow, rhythmic hum, voice but distorted. "Audio," the leader said quickly. The prism crackled, then translated. "Hold, stabilize, contain, focus, hold." "Voss," the second human muttered. "He's using breath patterning to control output. That's pre-collapse discipline. He's trained way past his classification." "No one trains for this," the leader replied. Behind them, the bulkhead groaned. Panels warped, and heat poured from seams that shouldn't exist. The visual recorder scrambled to render the data. And then, a bolt of plasma shot through the gap. A rolling wave of heat followed, strong enough to buckle nearby conduits. The team didn't flinch. The leader pulled a wide plate from his pack and activated it. A translucent shield burst outward, humming low as it absorbed the blast. "Still alive," he said. On the bridge, Threx watched in silent disbelief. They just absorbed a plasma wave. "No," said her adjutant slowly. They redirected it. Inside Deck 12, the third human dropped to one knee and placed the prism on the floor. A lattice of light spiraled out, mapping the heat signature like a growing spiderweb. "There," he said. A pulse of heat flared, not from the environment, from the center. "Voss." The shield flickered as another burst of energy surged toward the hallway. The humans braced, but this time, nothing. The air shimmered. Then a voice. Hoarse. "Get back." "Voss," the leader said calmly. "It's us." A pause. A gasp. "You're real?" "Yeah. Let's get you out." "I can't move. Containment's rigged. I wire myself into the field relay. If I let go, it blows." A silence fell. Then the second human spoke. "Field harmonics are unstable. If we remove him, containment collapses. But if we hold the modulation steady, can you do it?" Only if we match the pattern. We've got one shot. The leader unlatched the box from his shoulder. Inside, a crystalline array, shimmering faintly. He locked eyes with his teammates through their visors. Synchronize. The device unfolded. 3 emitters clicked into place. Pulsing light shimmered out, linking with the prism on the ground. Voss groaned. That's wrong frequency. No, wait, yeah, there. The wave began to calm. Outside the ship's bridge, sensors went wild. Heat levels dropped. Plasma turbulence stabilized. Captain Threx's jaw fell open. What are they doing? They're not suppressing the fire, said the engineer. They're joining it. Back inside, the structure of Deck 12 stopped creaking. The heat shimmer began to fade. The lead human knelt down. Voss! On my mark, disconnect. We'll catch the load. Won't be clean. Never is. Voss took a breath. His hands twitched over glowing wires woven into his arms. The human leader gave the nod. Voss yanked. Everything exploded into light. Searing, blinding white. Silence. Then the air cooled. Gently, like a sigh. Deck 12 systems rebooted. Sensors flickered, and the emergency alarms fell still. Voss lay on the floor, eyes wide but alive. Still burning? The leader asked. Not anymore, Voss whispered. Just warm. They helped him to his feet. He staggered once, then stood straighter. Thought I was gone, he said. The second human clapped him on the shoulder. Nah, you're just human. Voss smiled. Still feels like I'm on fire. You are, said the leader. Just less. Voss stood, unsteady but alive, sweat dripping from his brow in slow, controlled rivulets. His breath came ragged through grit-stained teeth. The heat hadn't entirely left him. It lingered under the skin, humming restrained. The lead human passed him a metallic vial. Coolant concentrate. Sip, don't chug. Voss nodded and drank. The reaction was instant. His trembling steadied, his body stopped radiating. Internal systems began to read normal. The hum of field destabilization gave way to measured silence. Give me status, the leader said to his team. Field emissions down 70%, replied the second. Remaining variance within containable limits. Radiation? Trace. Nothing lethal. Stabilizers? Holding. At this pace, we're clear for extraction in 10. Voss blinked. Wait, you guys didn't isolate the core? The third human smirked beneath his mask. Didn't have to. You were the core. Voss glanced down at his arm. The wiring still glowed faintly beneath the skin. He flexed a hand, and heat crackled in the joints. I hard-linked myself into the flux loop to stop it from overloading. Should have been lethal. It was, the leader said, for anyone else. On the bridge, Threx watched it all unfold in stunned silence. Her command crew whispered among themselves, struggling to reconcile what they were seeing. An alien tech turned. They didn't use suppressants. They didn't override the system. They adjusted it from inside the anomaly. Another murmured, I've never seen a sapient body absorb that kind of heat signature without molecular destabilization. It's not possible. Then they're not sapient, Threx said softly. There's something else. Inside the corridor, the humans began dismantling their temporary rig. The prism retracted. The stabilizer box folded inward. Each movement was swift, clean, nothing wasted. Voss leaned against the bulkhead. You know I was seconds away from rupture, right? The second human replied, Of course. That's why we walked. Voss let out a dry laugh. I was hallucinating. Thought I was talking to fire spirits. You were. Voss chuckled again, then coughed. The third human pulled a pack from his belt and handed Voss a thermal wrap. Try this. It'll finish dampening the internal loop. Voss unfolded the cloth. Inside was a mesh of human-designed cooling fibers, lined with a graphene weave. It sparked faintly when it made contact with his skin, pulling excess heat into itself. He exhaled, the tension draining from his shoulders. Feels like my skeleton's exhaling, he said. Good. Means it's working. Who figured this out? Voss asked. We did, the leader answered. After watching people like you burn for too long. Voss closed his eyes. Could have used that an hour ago. You weren't ready an hour ago. Threx's voice crackled over the hallway comms. Team Bravo, this is Captain Threx. Confirming emergency signal is deactivated. Containment reads green. Casualties 0. Confirmed, the leader replied. Situation neutralized. Permission to speak with your operative? The human glanced at Voss, who gave a small shrug. Go ahead, the leader said. Threx's voice returned, softer now. Voss, what did you do? Voss didn't answer at first. He ran a hand through soaked hair and sighed. I held the line. You risked destroying our ship. I was trying to save it. There was silence, then a quiet reply. I believe you. Voss glanced at the team. Never thought I'd be the guy needing extraction. Every human is, eventually, said the third. It's built into us. On the bridge, the alien crew watched the readings normalize in real time. The temperature profile dropped to manageable levels. Structural stress reports reset. The worst was over, but no one moved. They were still trying to process what they'd seen. Humans walking through plasma, standing inside thermal event horizons, talking like it was just another shift. Captain, said a young alien officer, how do they do that? Threx turned away from the screen. I don't think it's about how. I think it's about why. Back in Deck 12, the team packed up the last of their gear. Voss steadied himself, then walked on his own. The leader spoke without turning. How long were you fused? Voss replied, 51 minutes, maybe 53. Lost track after the 5th pulse. 51 minutes, sustaining an unstable field loop. That's above regulation. Voss smirked. Never really liked regulations. Neither did we. They moved toward the corridor. As they walked, Voss looked around the blackened walls, the melted deck plates, the scorched framework, then down at his own arms, which bore the marks of what he contained. I shouldn't be alive, he muttered. No, the second said. You shouldn't, but that's kind of our thing. They reached the outer bulkhead where atmospheric pressure returned to normal. As they stepped through, a low chime acknowledged the transition. Behind them, the wreckage of Deck 12 hissed in the silence. Voss looked back one more time. You think they'll ever understand us? Doubt it, the leader said, but they'll remember us. And the door closed behind them. The humans walked back through the corridors of the Virulin, silent and focused. The heat behind them faded to memory. Deck 12 had stabilized, and with it, the pulse of danger that had gripped the ship. But Voss still carried it. In his nerves, in the sweat still clinging to his skin, in the heat that hadn't entirely left his bones. They reached the docking bay. Alien officers parted without being asked. Some looked with awe, others with discomfort. None dared speak. Voss caught fragments of whispered translation. That's him, the one who caught fire. No, became fire. He didn't flinch, just kept walking. You didn't come back from the edge of detonation and worry about what people whispered. Threx was waiting near the shuttle. Her posture was formal, but her gaze held something deeper, something trying to understand the species she just witnessed rewriting her ship's safety protocols with nothing more than willpower and skin. She stepped forward. Engineer Voss. A slight pause. Specialist. Voss nodded. Captain, I reviewed your logs. What you did, it goes beyond any engineering protocol I've seen. You fuse your nervous system into an unstable field. Your body temperature hit catastrophic levels. You broke the suppressor ray, then stabilized it. Her mandibles clicked softly. Why? Voss tilted his head. Because if I didn't... The ship goes up. That includes your crew, your mission, your story. I didn't want that on my name. You could have died. Then I'd have died trying to fix it. She studied him for a long moment. You didn't ask for help. Voss's jaw clenched. Didn't think there was time. Thought I could handle it. And when you couldn't, you still didn't stop. He shrugged slightly. It wasn't done. Threx looked at the leader of the human team. You knew he'd survive? No, the leader replied. But we knew he'd try. And if he tried, he had a chance. Voss stepped up into the shuttle ramp. The heat shielding had cooled, but it still retained a faint warmth of proximity to the impossible. As he passed the edge of the bay, Threx spoke again. I want to understand. You're not built for this. Not designed for extreme radiation exposure. Not structured for long-term energy modulation. You have no external dampening organs, no cellular regeneration matrix. By our biology models, your species should have evaporated. Voss paused. Maybe that's why we don't stop. Because we know we shouldn't make it. So we do everything we can, even when it burns. Threx's eyes narrowed slightly. Is that a threat? No, that's our nature. He disappeared into the shuttle. The leader turned next, stepping up behind him, but Threx called after him. Wait! The human paused. Threx walked closer. I've read your file. You're not military, not government. You're part of the Fire Recovery Division, a civilian force. Technically, he said, then why the urgency? Why walk into an active plasma field with no shield, no backup, and only 3 people? The human adjusted his shoulder rig, then looked her in the eye, because one of ours was on the other side. Threx shook her head slowly. You're not a species. You're a chain reaction. He smiled behind a visor. Now you're starting to get it. And with that, he stepped into the shuttle. The doors sealed with a hiss. The shuttle lifted, rotated, and slipped through the docking field like a shadow vanishing into the stars. The bridge crew watched as the vessel disappeared from scanners. Silent, efficient, gone. Threx stood still. Her adjutant approached carefully. Captain, what shall I log in the official report? She hesitated. No fire, no explosion, no casualties. Correct. Then log it as such. Technical malfunction. Human recovery team responded. Incident resolved. The adjutant blinked. Nothing else. Threx turned slowly. No one would believe it anyway. The adjutant hesitated again. Captain, do we know if Voss will be normal again? Threx didn't answer immediately. Then finally, I don't think humans have ever been normal. In the shuttle, Voss sat in silence. Across from him, the other 2 members of the team checked the stabilizer core, watching it pulse with residual warmth. The leader sat down beside him. You'll have side effects. I know. Thermal imbalance, muscle strain, maybe even flashback surges. I've had worse. You haven't? Voss smirked. Maybe I have. You weren't there during that asteroid repair cluster over Eros 9. The leader smiled faintly. I read the report. Still not as hot as this one. Voss tilted his head. You think I should have died? You should have. The leader shrugged. But you didn't, so now you live with that. Voss looked down at his hand. It still trembled faintly, warmth glowing just under the skin. Not painful, just present. I felt it, you know? The field. It wasn't just energy. It was choice. Like the ship was asking me if I wanted to burn for it. And you said yes. Voss didn't answer. He didn't have to. Outside the shuttle, stars rolled past in streaks of cold, bright light, vast and infinite. And inside, a human sat still, cooling, recovering, remembering, and preparing to burn again if he ever had to, because that's what humans do. They hold the line,